Let's talk Apple Car. We get the announcement that we could see Apple cars on the road by 2025. What does this mean? We'll break down a few key points in this video, guys. Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many renderings of this thing already. That one needs a lot of work, in my opinion. Apple plans to launch a fully autonomous, that is another key, car as soon as 2025. We get the instant move for Apple shares to all-time highs. Let's jump into a few key points here, guys, going forward for Apple and the inevitable Apple car.
Absolutely. This was teased, I mean, a while ago, right? And I think that the announcement that we just recently got, twofold. I mean, Apple at that time was, I don't want to say depressed, but it'd been sort of, in a bit of a lull relative to the rest of the market and some of the other tech names. So you had that going for it. And then you had this confirmation at the same time that all of the Rivian and the Lucids and the EV space was exploding. So, that's the most important thing. It was the timing of it was absolutely perfect to make that announcement. The other thing to keep in consideration here is going to throw out some numbers. And I'm half chuckling when I say this, but as of when I wrote it down on my notepad here, they could be subject to change by a little bit. Lucid has an $84 billion market cap. Rivian has a $102 billion market cap. I'm using those two because those are momentum names that don't necessarily have deliveries in production yet. Apple has 2.64, and of course it could have moved a little bit, $2.64 trillion market cap. So if you're just simply saying, okay, well, if you add on top of it an EV multiple like one of those or add that market cap to it, is it significant? Not necessarily. It's only a few percentage points if you do it that way. But I think the bigger point here is it's Apple. It draws more people into their ecosystem when they get this done. Their technology to integrate, I think, is going to be a game changer and possibly enhance the number of people that are going to even want the access to their phones and other products. So that's what I think that's what it's all about here, as opposed to just saying, well, let's just pick an EV company, a comparable that they could turn into, and then try to add that on to Apple. This is much more than that. It's about integration. It's about becoming even bigger than what they are. And once Apple has you in the ecosystem, you know how it is, man. It's like once they get you, they manage to hold people pretty well. And I think that's a bigger deal than just saying, oh, we'll slap a Rivian on them and let's go upside.
Well, I think the thing too about Apple is that there's a quality assumption with all their products, right? And I think that's why the majority of people stick with Apple is because, like you said, once they're in there and they see the quality of their products, they don't go anywhere. Like, they just continue to buy more and more and more. And the only people really that don't like Apple are haters of Apple. It's not, they don't really have a beef against them per se, although obviously it's pricey. But again, you pay for quality. Look, Apple's trying to go level 5 autonomy, right? They're trying to be the only car that does that right now. I don't know if they're going to be first or not. I know Tesla's testing that as well, and that is completely autonomous, where you don't even have a steering wheel in there. They're talking about putting iPads, not even a steering wheel. You just sort of, if you have to override it for some reason, you can go in there and use your iPad as a steering wheel. That should be something that's pretty cool. The big thing for me, though, forget about everything. The important thing for me about this is that Rivian's got to use other parts. Every company is using some kind of parts there. Apple, where they've really made the big adjustment, is they're now using their own chips. So if they can put their own chips in the car, then they really start to, at some point, control their own supply chain. You've already seen with Ford and with GM and with some of these other companies that have come out and said, hey, listen, man, we can't put enough cars on the lots. We can't make enough cars. We can't keep them in inventory. Why? Because we don't have the sum of the parts. Well, Apple can sort of solve that problem. And I think for me, that's the big win here. Not only, obviously, they're going to get people into their ecosystem. And look, when you drive an Apple car, you're going to have an Apple phone, an Apple Watch, Apple TV, whatever you call it, Apple Peloton bike. Who knows what's going to come next? But the point is that Apple is at the forefront of this. They're not waiting, although they're going to be late to the EV name. They're going to come out with a unique car, hopefully, when that does come through, and their own chips, man. That's the story. We've seen Qualcomm, we've seen some of these other companies take temporary hits when they lose out on the iPad or they lose out on the MacBook. But now that Apple has that capabilities, I really feel this is a strong story for them. And look, man, come at the king and, you get burned a little bit here. I think this is definitely a negative for the rest of the EV names, but it's going to take years for this to happen. So let's let it play out. Stay tuned for more news on this.
I mean, 2022 is kind of right around the corner, so it's coming, right? It's coming. And I think one thing you said there, Sean, very, very important, and that is once somebody is in the Apple world, they don't typically leave the Apple world. So what does this mean overall for the overall auto industry going forward? And then you can take that down to obviously the EV industry and what I'm sure will become an autonomous industry. That remains to be seen, but Apple going directly at Tesla, guys, by 2025.